Welcome to the Zombie Story Zone. In this chilling tale of survival and hope, we take you to the frozen ends of the Earth, Antarctica, where the remnants of humanity battle against the undead and the unforgiving cold. Follow Sophia and Ethan as they navigate a desolate wasteland, risking everything to uncover a cure that could save the world. Their journey is filled with suspense, danger, and a flicker of romance in a world overrun by chaos. If you love gripping zombie stories with twists, thrills, and emotional depth, you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that like button to show your support, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Press the bell icon so you never miss a new story. It's your ticket to more thrilling adventures in the Zombie Story Zone. We'd love for you to share this story with your friends so they can join our growing community of zombie story lovers. And most importantly, we want to hear from you. Drop a comment below to let us know what you thought of today's story and how we can make the channel even better for you. Stay tuned for more epic tales of survival, fear, and resilience. Thank you for being part of our journey. The ice cracked underfoot, a sharp, ominous sound that echoed across the desolate Antarctic plain. Sophia adjusted her scarf, trying to shield her face from the biting wind, her rifle slung across her back. Beside her, Ethan scanned the horizon with his binoculars, his jaw set in a determined line. They both knew what the sound meant. The ice was growing unstable, and the undead were close. "We need to keep moving," Ethan said, his voice muffled by the scarf covering his mouth. His brown eyes met Sophia's, and for a brief moment, she saw a flicker of fear, not for himself, but for her. Sophia nodded, tightening her grip on the sled rope. Behind them, the dogs whined nervously, their breaths forming little clouds in the freezing air. The sled was loaded with what few supplies they had managed to salvage from McMurdo Station before it fell. Food, ammunition, and a weather journal that might hold the key to saving what was left of humanity. "We head east," Sophia said, her voice steady despite the knot of anxiety tightening in her chest. "The research base at Halley is our best shot." Ethan didn't argue. The days of arguing over plans had ended long ago, replaced by an unspoken trust forged in the fires of survival. Together, they trudged onward, their boots crunching on the snow. The Antarctic landscape was both beautiful and deadly. The vast, white expanse stretched endlessly, broken only by jagged peaks of ice and the occasional shadow of a wandering albatross overhead. But the beauty was a cruel disguise. Beneath the serene surface lurked the remnants of a world destroyed. It had started 3 years ago. A virus, engineered as a weapon, had escaped containment. Within weeks, it had spread across continents, turning people into mindless, flesh-hungry monsters. The virus thrived in the cold, and as humanity's safe zones fell one by one, Antarctica became the final refuge. But even here, the virus had found them. Sophia glanced back at Ethan. He was limping slightly, favoring his left leg. The memory of how he got that injury flashed through her mind, the narrow escape from an infected horde at the research station, Ethan throwing himself into the fray to buy her time to load the sled. The bite-proof suit had saved him, but the fall had left him with a gash that refused to heal properly in the freezing temperatures. "How's the leg?" she asked. "Fine," he replied, but his wince told a different story. The sled sped across the ice, the wind whipping at their faces. Sophia risked a glance back and saw the zombies dwindling in the distance, but her relief was short-lived. One of the dogs yelped, stumbling as its paw caught in a hidden crevasse. The sled skidded to a halt. "Damn it!" Ethan jumped off, helping Sophia untangle the dog. The creature whimpered, its leg bleeding. "We'll have to carry her. We can't leave her behind," Sophia said firmly. Ethan nodded, lifting the injured dog into his arms. They redistributed the sled's weight and pressed on, the remaining dogs pulling slower but still determined. Every step was a battle against exhaustion and the unyielding cold. By the time they reached a sheltered crevasse to make camp, both of them were near collapse. Sophia set up the portable stove while Ethan tended to the dog's wound. The small flame from the stove cast flickering shadows on the ice walls, creating a fragile illusion of warmth. As they eat their meager rations, Ethan broke the silence. Do you ever think about it? What it was like before all this? Sophia's eyes softened. Sometimes, I used to dream about traveling the world, seeing the pyramids, the Great Wall. Now, I'm just grateful for another sunrise. Ethan chuckled softly. I used to complain about coffee being too bitter. Now I'd kill for a cup. Their laughter faded into a comfortable silence. Despite everything, they found solace in each other's presence. In a world stripped of humanity, their connection was a lifeline. The next morning, they resumed their journey. The days blurred together as they traversed the frozen wasteland, always moving, always watching. The journal they carried became their anchor. Its pages detail the research of a scientist who had been working on a cure. The final entry mentioned Halley Research Station, a place shrouded in mystery and hope. As they drew closer to Halley, the landscape grew more treacherous. Cracks in the ice widened into gaping chasms, and the wind howled like a living thing. But they pressed on, driven by the sliver of hope that humanity might yet have a future. One evening, as they set up camp, Ethan pulled Sophia close. His touch was gentle, a stark contrast to the harshness of their reality. Sophia, if something happens to me, don't, she interrupted, her voice trembling. Don't talk like that. You need to hear this, he insisted. If something happens, you have to keep going. You're stronger than you think. Tears stung her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. We've made it this far together. We're finishing this together. Ethan smiled, a small, bittersweet curve of his lips. Together. Then, the next day, they reached Halley. The station was a sprawling complex of interconnected modules, its exterior battered by years of relentless storms, but it was intact. Looks like no one's home, Ethan said, his hand resting on his pistol. Let's hope it stays that way, Sophia replied. They entered cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the empty halls. The air inside was warmer, and for the first time in weeks, they dared to remove their scarves. They found the lab mentioned in the journal, its equipment covered in a thin layer of dust but otherwise functional. As they examined the notes and vials left behind, a glimmer of hope sparked in Sophia's chest. The research was incomplete, but it was a start. They had the tools to finish it, but their relief was short-lived. The sound of shuffling feet echoed from the corridor. Ethan grabbed his weapon, his expression grim. We're not alone, he said. Sophia's heart pounded as they prepared for another fight. Together, they faced the encroaching darkness, determined to protect the fragile hope they had found. In that moment, amidst the chaos and fear, they knew they had something worth fighting for, a chance to rebuild, to love, and to live. And in the heart of Antarctica, where the world had ended, they found the strength to begin again. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the sound of the wind and the dogs panting. They reached a ridge, and Ethan paused to survey the landscape. Sophia took the moment to sip from her canteen, the water inside barely above freezing. There's something ahead, Ethan said, lowering the binoculars. A structure looks abandoned. Sophia followed his gaze. In the distance, barely visible through the swirling snow, was the outline of a building. Her heart leapt at the possibility of shelter, but she tempered her hope with caution. Abandoned structures often hid danger. We'll check it out, she said, carefully. They approached the building as the sun dipped below the horizon, plunging the icy world into twilight. The structure was a small outpost, likely used by researchers before the apocalypse. Its windows were frosted over, and the door hung ajar, creaking in the wind. Ethan drew his pistol, motioning for Sophia to stay behind him. She unslung her rifle, her finger hovering near the trigger. Together, they stepped inside. The interior was dark and eerily silent. The beam from Ethan's flashlight illuminated overturned chairs, a broken table, and papers scattered across the floor. The air was stale, carrying a faint metallic tang that made Sophia's stomach churn. Clear so far, Ethan whispered. Sophia nodded, moving to secure the door. As she turned the lock, a low, guttural growl echoed from deeper within the building. Her heart froze, and she spun around, her rifle at the ready. "Stay close," Ethan said, his voice tight. They crept forward, the flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The growling grew louder, accompanied by the sound of shuffling footsteps. They rounded a corner and saw it, a lone zombie, its skin pale and frostbitten, its eyes glowing with a sickly yellow light. It stumbled toward them, its movements jerky but unrelenting. Ethan fired, the gunshot echoed like a cannon blast, and the zombie crumpled to the floor. But the noise had awakened others. From the shadows emerged more figures, their guttural moans filling the air. "Run!" Sophia shouted. They bolted back toward the entrance, the sled dogs barking wildly. Ethan covered their retreat, firing into the horde as Sophia threw open the door. They stumbled outside, the freezing air hitting them like a wall. The dogs strained at their harnesses, desperate to flee. "Go!" Ethan yelled. Sophia didn't need to be told twice. She grabbed the sled ropes and urged the dogs forward. Ethan leapt onto the sled as the undead spilled out of the building, their shrieks cutting through the night. The dogs ran like their lives depended on it because they did.
Here, hold on tight. It's a wild